I would like to know what learning opportunities, what learning experiences our panelists have been providing for learners, and it could be people within their team, fellow team members, employees, or it could be customers or stakeholders. What are you doing to kind of make up for lost ground, to make sure that no one is left out? So let's see. Let's start with Rupali this time.
As I mentioned, we started making videos that were multilingual, multicultural in terms of learnings. How do you write a script that is digestible? How do you translate that script into a colloquial language takes skill? Even if I myself am a native Hindi speaker and I had to sit down every time, translate the script into Hindi, go and practice with my parents and my in-laws, and if they didn't come back, rewrite the changes into the script, do a translation again, go back and check with my parents and my in-laws, did they get the message this time? That's an effect that I don't think people really appreciate, how much effort goes into actually doing translations, but not just, like I said, it's not just Google Translate. You really have to see whether or not your message is coming across. That was a learning that I think every single volunteer had, and there was a newfound appreciation also in the fact that when we think about science, we think about science in English. We actually don't have certain words in other languages. So when we are explaining what social distancing is, or at the time we were all talking about like the curve and trying to explain what does this graph mean, and trying to take the science behind, like, okay, well, you have the COVID virus and this is what aspect of the virus is affecting you and how your body's reaction is actually against like the high temperatures because they're trying to kill the virus. Like all of those things, easy enough to do in English. When it comes to doing it in a different language, even if you're a native speaker, there's some words that you had to go to a dictionary to find. And then you sat there and were like, no one has ever heard of this word. I don't even know how to pronounce this word. So now how do we change that message? How do we still get that message across, but change the way we approach it? Rather than using jargon, how do we simplify it? That was another level of learning that many of the volunteers had to do. There was getting comfortable in front of a camera. And then there's, on top of that, there's the actual editing, the video editing part that goes into making anything. And then understanding, how do you distribute? Who do you distribute to? Who's actually watching these videos? Looking at those statistics and trying to determine, is this actually our target audience? Do we have elders that are actually watching these videos? Or are we falling in that like 25 to 30 age range where fantastic that they're watching it, but are we actually reaching the seniors that we want to reach who wouldn't necessarily have access to these? How can we change our message? How can we change our approach to getting the message across? So learning that every single step. For myself personally, I had a newfound appreciation on script writing in itself. And it was the same script that would go to all of the volunteers who would then do a translation. And I had to insert places as blanks and be like, please insert something here that is appropriate for your culture, to make sure that that connection, that cultural connection is going to come, rather than me putting in a word that, in the West we may understand, but that's not always true in the East. And our videos are global. So for me to continually think about that, for the people who were doing the research itself about the message, for them as well to be thinking about, well, how much of this is coming from who has provided this information, what is coming out of the research coming from different countries, and then how do we make that into a script that's digestible. So there were many layers of learnings that we had.
Thank you. And you bring up an important point. I think that our relationship, everyone's relationship to science right now, should have been different for a long time. But with COVID, I think it's really changed the way all of us view it. Where it's how do I need to understand this because it's my well-being. So I think there's a rebranding, if you will, of science, who belongs and who is it for and what does it look like and why is it important? I think that's happening across the board. And yeah, we want to make sure that everybody gets materials and understanding that suits them, that we meet people where they live, because it is, it's life or death in some situations right now. So yes, thank you for that. Shan, why don't we go to you this time?
It kind of makes me think about, 5 years ago, if I was asked the question, what will you be doing in 2020? I didn't get it right. So I think if I think about my team, right, what we went through was, how do we service our clients? How do we continue to provide education, advisory services when we did almost all of that in person before? And I think about kind of how did we do it? And I think it started with, first of all, acknowledging we didn't have all the answers and being very open-minded, being vulnerable. Me as a leader having to be vulnerable and saying, I don't know, let's give it a shot. Let's experiment. Let's try this. Let's try that. Let's talk to our clients, see what's working for them. So I think, for us, it's really been, for me, great that the team has been in that mindset of, let's give it a try. Let's see what we can come up with. If it doesn't work, let's not get attached to it. And then we've really been lucky working with Enable, because Enable has helped us to take some of that learning content and put it in a format that will be used by our clients, because we now know that time and place don't mean the same things anymore. And I can't remember, but somebody had already said it, like, that's not going to change. So the way in which we've had to think about education, not just for ourselves, but also for our clients, where it used to be, come to this place at 9 a.m. on a Tuesday, and for 2 hours, your world will be enlightened. Like, that doesn't work anymore. So for us, it's really kind of staying open, making sure we don't get too attached to anything, and experimenting and really working with our clients to get feedback about what is the right way for them and what are some of the things that we just need to kind of put aside and move on.
A lot of educators don't really grasp the importance of being able to say, I don't know. Let's figure this out. Let's figure it out together. Tell me what you need. So that's such an important thing to do. It's such an important, to make yourself vulnerable and go, I'm still treading water. Oh, here are the nautical metaphors again. I'm still treading water like everybody else. Let's bail together. So thank you for that. Turfa, do you want to give this one a shot?
We pretty much found ourselves in the same situation. We have 10 years of experience doing in-person programming. We're very good at it. And again, beginning of this pandemic, we were in completely uncharted waters. We wholeheartedly had to accept the fact that this is a new space and we're not the experts. We have to continue to serve our communities, but we're going to do it while we learn to do this work better. So for us, it was really just reframing what success looked like. And success in this situation wasn't necessarily hitting the outcomes that we had defined for us, but it was, are we understanding the space more with every single pilot that we're launching and positioning ourselves to be better at supporting our participants. There is a bit of us being a nonprofit and a charity, there's the funder aspect, an element there too. So often money that we do receive is very often tied to strict reporting requirements. But we were lucky to have the majority of our supporters essentially just eliminate those requirements and just put us in a position where we had the freedom and the flexibility to respond as we needed to. And with that, whether it was spending resources on community assessments to better understand the new problems that were arising or the amplified barriers that our participants were facing, and then just launching pilot after pilot. So it's been a year of really great conversations without the fear or pressure of having to hit, very restrictive reporting requirements. But, how do we do this work better? And now a year in, we're sitting on just tons of data and tons of experience on different types of interventions that we've tested, and looking forward, we're in a really good position to just make some long-term calls as to what the most effective way to move forward is for us. So yeah.
That's really interesting that your relationship with your funders has changed as well, and maybe your funders are learning. It's a learning experience for them too. What do we expect of the organizations that we fund? How do we measure things differently? So that's a really important point too. Thank you. And Monique.
So fire service is a little different because we're an emergency response. So there can be no decrease in the level of service that we do to the community. It's not like we can say, well, sorry, there's COVID restrictions, so we're not coming to your house fire, we're not coming to that medical call, and you have to get yourself out of that vehicle because we're not going to help you. So that for us is a very big challenge. We work, I'm not sure if you're aware, the fire department works 24-hour shifts. So although the training division works 10-hour days, so we're responsible for delivering the training to suppression crews actually work a 24-hour shift. So that averages out to 7 days a month that firefighters work. Training can't stop, obviously. And anybody that's met a firefighter will know that they are all virtual learners. They are all very hands-on type A personalities. So when the COVID restrictions hit, we had to limit the interaction of crews. So we have a training campus here in Oakville. So a lot of times when we deliver like live fire, we'll bring 3 stations to the campus to deliver the training. Well, we can't do that anymore, but we still have to make sure they learn and they're practicing their skill sets. So send that email out. That was a great day for me, advising all the staff that we were now going virtual for training and that we would not be doing very, very, very little practical skill sets. And that's been for almost the past year. We have a mandate of how many firefighters we have to have on crews. So should we get someone that tests positive for COVID, you have to think if it's a 2-crew station, that takes everybody in the station out for 14 days, and we've had that happen to us. So I'm not sure if you're aware, Mississauga had 90 firefighters. They had a reduction in COVID, so that creates a whole new problem. So for us, the training, yes, we have to deliver the training, but the learning how to deliver that training was extremely difficult. So not only was fire prevention learning how to do social media, the training division was learning how to video each other, how to create hands-on, practical, but through a video so that we could distribute it out to the halls so that they could watch the training division and then go out and try and do it themselves. So it's been an increase in actually the opportunity for training because we now have these videos with the training officers when the training officers are on their days off. So when we don't have someone in training on a Saturday, we still now have this video. So we do see some upside to this. And the e-learning portion, we've developed a lot of the promotional processes and stuff are all online now for them, their exam processes. But yeah, the learning part was a real challenge for us. Basically, because we had to accept the fact that how much could we actually put into these learning videos based on the learning style. And in general, firefighters are not e-learners by any means. So I think we've done our best to meet the challenges. We are still moving forward with our training, but it has definitely been at a reduced pace.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a really fascinating and a really important window into how education has changed for people who are working in frontline jobs, who are, public facing and hands-on, and you don't get to go home and work from home. That doesn't change. So thank you for sharing the challenges of that. And I'm glad to see that things are still moving forward, that you are adapting and you're figuring out what works. And I think a really important point, not everybody learns well online. So that's a challenge for all of us. What do? You don't want to leave anyone out. You want to bring everyone in and be as inclusive as you possibly can. What do you do with people who learn from doing stuff? So that's a challenge across the board. But thank you all for sharing what you're doing. We want to know what our participants in the audience have experienced in terms of, going online. How has the past year changed how you feel about learning online yourself, or, how you feel about providing it for your clients, your partners, your team? So There you go. Let us know what you think. A little more of a variety with this one. And it's cool to see that some people, you know, we were ahead of the game. You know, we were all this stuff that we've been developing, and everyone kind of said, "Bah, you won't need it." You know, okay, we needed it. It was good that it was there. Okay, very good. All right, thank you everyone for chipping in. I think for the most part, people have rethought it at least. And it sounds like it's become more important to a lot of people. It's become more prevalent. So, all right. Thank you for that. And this is information, you know, that I think all of us can use when, you know, designing learning experiences for anyone we work with.